So I'm doing quite a bit of cleaning on this as I've been putting it back together. So I cleaned up all of these, cleaned up all the keys, keycaps, cleaned off all of the wheels and all the registers, cleaned off these things. I had to repaint that 0 because it mostly washed off. I did my fix for this. It's not pretty, but it's better than nothing. I glued a piece of black paper on the back there, and then tried to freehand paint the digits back on, and you can see how well that went. But it's better than nothing. I'm not an artist. So, I think this is getting ready to put the motor back on. I still have to put these keys back on, and that key. I wanted to mention when I put this back on, just putting this on and tightening it all the way down was enough to push this multiplier back and knock it out of adjustment again. So, I think I took this back off, loosened up this screw, and slid this back as far as it would go. Tightened that down, and then play with the adjustment to try and get it as close as I could to perfect. And then put this back on, and didn't tighten it all the way down. It's kind of interesting. The multiplier mechanism is pretty simple. Like, I don't know, maybe like 10 pieces total for the multiplier unit, not including the key stems, but that's another 10 pieces right there. But it's pretty simple. It's not a complex mechanism, but it's so easy to get it misadjusted. And if you loosen up this screw and slide this and just push this in one direction or the other, that's enough to knock it out of adjustment where it won't work properly. So I don't like that so much. I don't like things that are like super critical, and there's not a whole lot holding it into adjustment. Like I said, all this screw is the only thing that is really holding this in perfect adjustment. So if this gets loose or isn't tightened down far enough and this slides any amount, it'll knock it right out of adjustment and it won't work right. So I'm not a big fan of that. But I'm not sure if I mentioned before the symptoms of this being out of adjustment. Take a look at the back here. Pinch my fingers. This piece right here is the culprit. So if you put this machine through a cycle, just like pushing the add button and put it through a cycle, and this stays sticking out, like, because I can't do it now, but if this stays like back here and doesn't fall back in, that means you're out of adjustment. If you have the latching button in the front popped up, a little button that says add, if that's popped up and you put this through a cycle and it locks at the end of the cycle, it's out of adjustment. If you have that pushed down and it doesn't lock at the end of a cycle, it's out of adjustment. And let me show you what I mean by locking. Additionally, if you push any of these multiplier keys and it goes more or less cycles than it's supposed to, it's also out of adjustment. So if I move this back around a little bit. So if I push right now I have this popped up. So if I push the add key, I should be able to crank this continuously without stopping. Am I going in the right direction? No, I'm not going in the right direction. Go the right direction, and I can crank this continuously as long as I hold the button down. As soon as I release the button, it locks like that. If I push this down, it should lock every cycle. You see it's not because it's not in perfect adjustment. It should lock eventually. See, now it locked. It does it intermittently. And that's as good as I could get this adjustment. It should be doing that locking every time with this push down. So you did it there. And you have to release this, put down, and you can go again. See, it's intermittent. It should be locking every time. But I just want another probably 6 weeks playing with this adjustment on this, so I'm going to leave it alone. Everything seems to work except for that. So I think we're ready to put the motor back on. And that's what I'll have to say about this. This is a very, very finicky adjustment, and it's very annoying to do. So if you don't have to do it, don't do it. Okay, so we got the motor assembly here. This will go on like this. You can see See this thing down here? You can't see that. This thing is going to go underneath this piece. There's a little support. This thing here is going to go on that gear there. And then this lever is going to come back out and it's going to go onto here. I think there's also a pin that has to go in here as well. Let's see, let me get that out of the way. Let's see if we can... Something like that should be right. Put some screws back in the bottom, and that should be on. Okay, I think we're finally ready for a power up. I'll put this in the home position. And notice I put the front back on the carriage. And this is actually the detent. You see how it's cut out down there? That is the stop for when it slides this way, and it's cut out down here. That's the stop for when it slides the other way. So that's why before, when it was sliding the carriage, this was getting like way over here. That's because this plate wasn't on, and also this top piece of the track has a lump in it that slides, that fits in this cutout here. So it can only slide to either end before it hits and stays there. Another thing I wanted to mention is I tightened the screws on this top piece of the track. I tightened them all the way down and it was too tight to move, so I just loosened them up a little bit. I'm not quite sure why that would be, because I completely cleaned the track all the way out, so it's not like there was like dirt or anything in there causing it to be tight. So I'm not sure what that's about, but anyway, this is not tightened all the way down so that it can move easily. So let's turn it on and see what happens. Motor started. Let's try 55. I'm gonna put this down, put it in add mode. Hey, 55. Let's try adding 33 to that. It's working. Let's try 88 minus 22. Alright, we are looking good. Let's see if I can push some of these buttons. We'll do 25 times 25. So, when I set this out, come on, out one place. This is a bit loose, so I have to see what's up with that. Set that out one place, and in that place we want to do a 2. Ow. These buttons are stiff and sharp. I'm going to do 5. Oops, so how did an add mode? Stupid. Helps if you use it right. Get this out of add mode. Should be out of add mode. We'll do 25. Wrong way. That way. And let's do 5. There we go. 25 times 25 is 625. When I have the handle on here that I can clear this, it will show up 25. It will show up 25 there as the counter. Now without the... with this up, I should be able to go forever. Whoops. Stuck on something. This one that got bent over so that the carry flag on the next register can't pop out. Now it's working. actually able to subtract forever too. Now this push down should stop every cycle. See if it works. Of course, you'd be entering numbers each cycle. I think we are in business. Gotta put these keys back on. I gotta clean up the main cover and put that back on. When I got it, that was missing all of its screws, so I have to see what we can come up with for that. I have to clean up the decimal indicators for the keyboard and put those back on, and there's also a plate that goes up here that has little arrows drawn from each column up to its respective register. So like when you put a 9 here, that's going to appear in this location in the accumulator. So that plate just has a little arrow that goes up from here drawn up to there to let you know where you're entering, if you don't want to look up right there. And just a little, it helps you see what's going on because these digits do not line up with the keyboard digits as far as position. So I think we are in pretty good shape as far as that's concerned. I'm going to go into the back and see the motor running. Hold it down. This crank is going to come off. That goes back on my XL machine. I just put that on for hand cranking it through the test phases. But that comes back off, and then this little knob goes on there. So you don't have a crank flying around randomly. Ready to chop someone's fingers off. Better. You have to push these buttons in pretty firmly. You just tap it a little bit, it doesn't do anything. You gotta really push it in. This is supposed to say clear, that's not the right button for there. Okay, so I'm pretty satisfied with that. And you know what, now that I have that crank off, I can put the other crank on. This little one. Should probably clean that up a little bit, just for clearing that. So now, if we went back to our first test, I'm going to do 25 times 25. I don't know why this thing is still sticky. Might be because it's so loose on its shaft here. Anyway, 25 times 2. Wrong way. 5. So now we have 25 times 25 is 625. If we want to do more of that, we can do 625 times 6. Now we have 625 times 625 is 39625. So, that looks pretty good. That's alive. A lot of problems with this machine, but it seems to be working okay now. What I have to do is some more thorough tests, like making sure that this carries all the way across, and actually I can do that test right now. I'll just do 1 and say minus. I can see that my counter carries all the way across because it will back to all 9s, and my accumulator carries all the way across because it will back to all 9s. I can repeat the same test here and just make sure that the rest of it carries. And it does. So, seems to be pretty good. I'll have to do some more cleaning, or clean up this, maybe clean up this knob a little bit. But then get a different pin to go in here. I'm assuming that originally there was a taper pin in there. This is still pretty loose on its shaft. For some reason, it doesn't always want to go that way. Not really sure what that's about. I never really looked into that mechanism. That's all the way up underneath the carriage. I'm not even sure how you get that out. Anyway, doesn't seem to be too bad. Well, it seems to work everything except for this sticking a little bit. That might free up over time too. So back to cleaning, and hopefully the next time you see this, it will be 100% together. Okay, so I got this all back together here. I'm still thinking about finding a different pin for this because it's still kind of loose, but other than that, it seems to be okay. This was the original window up here. I see I replaced that, so you can actually see the numbers in there. So let's give this a little demonstration. Turn it on. Carriage to the home position, and then from here you can add like 573. Oops, this should be pushed down. This pushes down so that it clears the keyboard every time. Now it clears the keyboard. And also subtract. And then for clearing, this clears the accumulator, this clears the counter, and of course this clears the keyboard. The keyboard clears itself. For multiplication, we pop this up. We'll shift this out a few places. We'll say 625 times 625, so we do 6. 20. And there's our answer. For division, turn this to divide, clear the counter, and now we want to hold down the minus until we see an overflow. Like that. Clear the overflow and shift. Okay, and there's our answer, 3.14 and so on. This is your little decimal point you slide where you want it. So, I mentioned before about this, when this is pushed down, then it's supposed to stop every cycle. It's like when this is up and you put a number and you can hold this down. When this is down, this should stop every cycle. Even if I hold it down. And if you remember before, it wasn't doing that when I had the crank on the side. I could keep cranking it all the way through. Well, it seems like, I noticed this when I was putting this back together, that one of the screws that I put in that clutch assembly seemed to be longer than the original ones and was rubbing against the cycle counter gear down in the bottom. So I followed it down a little bit, and that seems to have fixed the problem of this not stopping. So now it seems to stop every cycle like it's supposed to. Just switch back to multiplication so it counts up. All this does is change the direction of the counter. When it's in the multiply setting, this counts up for addition, it counts down for subtraction. And when it's in the divide setting, it counts up for subtraction, it counts down for addition. So, I think that's about it as far as work on this. Maybe touch up the paint a few places here and there, and find something else to hold this on. See how loose that is. So the problems with this machine was, first of all, the motor was frozen, so I had to free up the bearings on the motor to get that one running again. The little detents on the back of the I'm pretty sure I showed this before, but each of these little number wheels in here, like when you push it down, it slides up. Well, as soon as you push a button, there's a bunch of hooks that come in to lock that in place as the machine runs through its cycle. Well, two of the hooks on this side were not falling back far enough, so that when you try to run the machine through the cycle, the hooks couldn't fall in to lock the wheels in place, because when these were in the 0 position, they weren't back far enough, and the hooks were jamming on the teeth on the back of this wheel they were supposed to lock. So by bending the stops a little bit, I was able to get these to fall back far enough that the hooks could come in and grab onto the teeth and lock those in the right position. Also, the multiplier was out of adjustment, causing the machine to jam, which led to the broken clutch, which is why I had to take this all apart. If that clutch hadn't broken, more than likely I could have just adjusted it from the front here without taking all the keys out and without taking the side off. But by doing that, I figured out how the multiplier mechanism works, and I mean, it's not too bad to put back together. The hardest part is getting the side off. You have to kind of like try and tap it off a little bit, but aside from that, and also a couple of the key columns were out of adjustment, so like when you push 1 here, it would show 0 still, so I had to bend that back into place. Well, I think that's it for this one. It seems to be working pretty well now, so I hope you enjoyed this look at oh, there's one other thing I forgot to show. So I managed to find some information on these older machines. See, here's the EA. This is what we have. We have the EA9, because there's 9 columns in the keyboard. The successor of that was the EB9. So that has these 2 little buttons here. Those are for automatic register clearing, so you see there's no crank on there or there. You just push the button to clear the register. There are also a couple other ones here, like the ER and the ERB, and you see those don't have the multiplier rows. They are only automatic division. The EB, I don't think the EB has automatic division, so there should be a little handle there. Not sure if you can see it there or not. A little handle there on the side activates the automatic division, and see it's not. I don't see it here on this one, so I don't think that one has automatic division. And there's also some other ones, like the EE, with successor to the EB. There's also an EER, which again does not have the multiplier. ERG also does not have the multiplier. The EEG, you see it says 100% electric calculator. I have one of these, and this is automatic everything. So, like on this machine, after you push the multiplier button, you have to manually shift. While on the EEG, it automatically shifts each time you push one of these multiplier buttons. See the little handle there, this does have automatic division. And it has these extra 2 buttons up here, and it's automatic carriage shift. This is pretty much automatic everything. The only thing that's not automatic is the setting up for division. So you have to manually pull the carriage all the way over and enter the first number and then clear the counter, and then you can enter your second number and pull the handle for automatic division. And they also have these ones here, which is kind of hard to tell, but they call them duplex, because there's 2 levels on the accumulator register. So like this only has 1 accumulator, while the duplex ones have an X-ray register on top of that on the same carriage, so you can like store grand totals or something in the X-ray register. And then, and by the way, these are from, here's the date there, October 25th of 1939. And you notice that they were already called old line back then. This other page is some specifications. You can see that EA was made from 1923 to 1926. So that's this one here, manufactured from 1923 to 1926. And then the EB picked up in 1926. And then these EC and ED, they didn't have pictures of those on the other page, so I'm not sure about that. And the EEG, which is the other one I have, was manufactured starting in 1929. And you can see all the different things they do, like semi-automatic multiplication because you have to hand shift it, whereas the EEG has full automatic multiplication because you don't have to hand shift it. I'm going to put a link to these in the video description so you can read about all the different configurations you could get in these machines. I think these were, they started calling the old line I think in 1934 when the silent speed machines came out to replace these. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this little look at a repair, and it's now working. Marchant EA9, manufactured from 1923 to 1926. So hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.